Yeah. Hi, all. Coach Babers is joining us at the podium right now. For those who just joined, I'm going through and allowing record on those people. But we'll get started right now with Darius Joshua. Darius, go ahead.
How you doing, Coach? I was just wondering, did you have an update on Taj? And then on top of that as well, how did you think Anthony played on Saturday, kind of within the expanded role a little bit?
Okay, I didn't hear the second question. What was the second question?
It was just any update on Taj, and then secondly, if you had what your thoughts on what Anthony clearly did, kind of with an expanded role in the offense.
Taj is okay. So I'm in the team meeting yesterday. He seems like he's in good spirits. I was excited to see what Q was able to do as the main guy last week. I thought he did some really good things in the football game.
Thanks, Darius. Next, we go to Nico Tamurian.
Hey, Coach, thanks for this. I wanted to talk about a little bit about Saturday and the effort, especially we saw from the underclassmen. I mean, certainly we could point to any number of players that really did well. Is that more indicative of, we're several games into the season, they're getting more reps and growing, maybe even a turning point, or was it just one of those things that they executed well and you're looking for more of the consistently great sort of thing?
I thought I was really proud of how they played. We don't play games to lose. We understand what the result is, the result. But I really thought that they competed a lot better than they did the week before. And I told those young guys, I said, you're going to get a chance to tackle a first-round draft pick at tailback and a first-round draft pick at quarterback, and go measure yourself up to those guys. Now understand, getting them down on the ground is really a big accomplishment. So don't be trying to, to go out there and hit them as hard as you can. The key thing is to bring them down. And they had some misses early, but I also thought they had some growth in tackling those guys. Clemson has an amazing football team offensively and defensively, and I didn't feel like we were totally mismatched on the effort part of it. Physically, I thought we did some good things well, but they're bigger and they're stronger and they're older, and eventually they wore us down.
Thanks, Coach.
Next, we go to Mark Larson.
Hey, Coach, how do you explain the difference in, I don't know if it's the way your team played or what between Liberty and Clemson? Was it anything that happened last week that they just kind of had a come to Jesus moment, or, because that game, after what happened against Liberty, shouldn't have been as close as it was?
I can't tell you. I mean, sometimes I think I've got the craziest profession in the world, undergraduate degree, master's degree, and I want my livelihood to depend on what 18 and 21-year-olds do. They look like two different football teams. It's something that I'm really proud of, the way they competed against Clemson. I'm not so proud about the way they competed against the other guys. But what we need to do is I'm striving for these young people and for ourselves to be consistent, because that's what you need to do. You need to have a steady stream so that people can, make decisions off of you, and you don't want to be inconsistent. So we're trying and moving that way as fast as we can, but with the drastic age groups that we have, it's taken us a little bit longer than what I would anticipate it.
Thanks, Mark. Next, we go to Stephen Bailey.
Hey, Dino, I wanted to ask you about putting Jacoby and Morgan in at the end of the Clemson game. Not surprised he didn't throw the ball behind the second-team line, but what went into your decision to put him in the game, and what have you seen from him in these last few weeks now that he's kind of gotten a chance to practice a little bit?
When he started, he had the first-team line in front of him. When he started, the first-team line was out there. My big thing is that was the first time that all the young people on the team got to play in front of a crowd. And I want to say there was about 20,000 people out there. Depending on where you played high school football, that would be the biggest crowd that you ever played in front of, and I'm pretty sure it was for Jacobian. But, I just wanted to get him out there, let him see what a stadium was, see if he was going to drop his first shotgun snap or catch his first shotgun snap in front of everybody else. And once he got that underneath his belt, we'll try to move further. But I just wanted to get him out there and let him get a taste of it. And we also got to remember that with all these freshmen, this year doesn't count. So there's going to at least be an opportunity for him to come back 2 or 3 times to get back to play in that stadium again. And I wanted to make sure he got a taste of it.
So would you consider him your backup at this point? And is there any chance we see him in an increased capacity this weekend?
Again, we're still trying to, put our best guys out there, and we're going to play whoever we think those people are. And then there'll come a time, hopefully in games, where maybe we can play some of the backups, and we'll try to get them in there. But we just got to see how it goes. Every game is different.
Thanks, Dino.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we go to Josh St. Croix.
Hi, Coach. Garrett Williams had another, really strong game for you, obviously, on Saturday. Just wondering if you could kind of take us back to training camp and just what you saw in him that gave you the confidence to make him a week 1 starter.
He walked in like he was going to be a week 1 starter. We might have been treating him like he was a new guy, and he kept walking around like he was a starter. And he kept doing so well that he kept moving up in the depth chart and moving up in the line. And before you know it, it was exactly where he said he was going to be. It's interesting. His dad said he was going to be there, and I'd say, well, sir, he'll get the opportunity, and we'll just see. But sure enough, there he was, and he's playing fantastic football for us. Again, another young guy that has an opportunity to be here 4 more years. We're really excited about him.
Thanks, Josh. Next, we go to Chris Carlson.
Dino, when you've talked about the young quarterbacks, you've talked about not wanting to put them in too early. Do you think putting a young player in during a bad situation has the potential to cause long-lasting damage to their confidence, or is it just a matter of not wanting to put someone in when they aren't ready to do the job?
No, I think there's something to be said about the first thing that you said. You really want to pick and choose when you want your little brother to come play tackle with the big boys. And you got to make sure that the other guys on the other team is like, hey, that's my little brother. He's playing with us. We know he's little, but you don't need to be making him grow up in one football game. He's playing, and we understand, but treat him nicely. Well, in college football, you don't get to tell the other team to treat your young guys nicely. So I do think it's important that when you put them in the game, that they really have an opportunity to not only match up from a mental situation, but from a physical situation, that they're gifted enough that they can protect themselves and maybe come out of a bad encounter if they run into a car wreck somewhere, that they're going to get up and be able to take care of themselves. So I think it's important to if you have an opportunity to, when you introduce them to big-time college football, so to speak, instead of just throwing them out there.
Does getting through Clemson change the calculus at all for you moving forward?
You guys haven't talked about Wake Forest has got a defensive end that's probably better than anybody that Clemson has. Carlos Basham, I say his name, number 9, is amazing. I'm watching him, I keep going, how much does he weigh? How much does he weigh? Because he is so fast. He had to turn down money last year to come back. He's so good. So, yeah, Clemson had a lot of big guys out there, but Wake Forest has got some bad guys out there too. So, hopefully that if we get an opportunity to put them in the game, they'll be able to navigate the alligator, so to speak, and they won't get bit. But there's good football players on all types of teams, especially when you're playing in the ACC Atlantic.
Thank you, Dino.
Thank you.
Next, we go to Adam Hillman from the Daily Orange.
Dino, so the team against Liberty, was a lot of big plays, especially in the running game. Whether that was in read option or not, against Clemson, those big plays weren't there. The longest game they had was 25 yards. So what can you say about the performance of Rob and Jihad, and how do you think they can take that going forward?
Well, first of all, I think it's that defensive line up front. I thought that the seniors on the D-line played amazing, and I thought the linebackers really did play a lot better. But Carter and Hannah, they're growing up back there, and they're not getting spelled. There's nobody else to go to, and they're making mistakes too. They're not doing everything right. But I think when you get a testament by fire, so to speak, which is what's going on with them, hopefully when this season's over and they're coming into next year, the off season, they'll understand how much they have to go to the weight room, how hard they have to train, how important nutrition is, how they need to take care of their growth off the football field watching tape, so that they can have an opportunity to be really outstanding freshmen next year when they come back to play in the ACC.
Yeah, and what did you see them learn from Andre? What did you see them pick up from him before he, opted out? What did you see them learn from him, and how did they get better?
Well, I don't know if they learned it from Andre, but if you watched Andre Cisco, the one thing that he's always done since he's been here is he's always treated his body and his mind like he was going to play in professional sports. I mean, he was in the training room more than anybody, and he wasn't hurt. He was the guy watching film more than anybody, and he was one of the best guys in the back end as far as knowing what to do. He was constantly training his body as a professional, mentally and physically. And I don't know if they got that from Andre or not, but if you're watching Andre Cisco and you get a little bit of that residue off of him, I think it's going to make you a better football player.
Thanks, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we'll go to Christian de Guzman.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask about Sean Tucker. We didn't see him that much in the second half after he went down with that injury. Do you have an update on him and what his status might be for the Wake Forest game?
I do not have an update yet. It's still Monday. That normally happens later on in the afternoon. Our doctor has to get off of work because he has another job. And then when he gets off the operations and all the stuff that he's doing, he normally comes by late Monday, so I won't have that information until later today.
So he's obviously had a tremendous season, Sean has, and he's really been a revelation for you guys. What has he done well in the running game that maybe the other running backs on the roster haven't quite done as well?
You know, I think when I think about running back, first of all, it makes me think about my dad that's no longer with us, because he always says the best there ever was Jim Brown, and he wouldn't talk about anybody else. And I'm saying that long before I ever thought I'd be the head coach at Syracuse. That was drilled in me. But I think the biggest thing with running backs, regardless of their style, whether it's Jim Brown, the late Walter Payton that just passed away, you know, all the greats, the first guy doesn't bring them down. I got an opportunity to meet Earl Campbell when I worked back in the state of Texas. And Earl Campbell didn't have a lot of moves. He had speed, but he didn't have a lot of moves, but the first guy didn't bring him down. Jim Brown, the first guy, didn't bring him down. Walter Payton, first guy, didn't bring him down, you know. And that is what Sean has. The first guy rarely brings him down. And good backs make yard after first touch or yards after contact. And he has a lot of that. When you're rolling up the yak, so to speak, it normally means that you're somebody that you can turn around and hand the football to a large amount of times and get a lot of production from.
Thanks, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we'll go to Nate Mink.
You know, I recently read Earl Campbell actually played with spinal stenosis, which is pretty wild to think about.
He was a BA, Nate. You might have to go check that out and see what those initials stand for, but he was a straight BA.
Yeah. I think I used that word in a story last week, actually. I wanted to ask you to go wide a little bit on recruiting and give an appraisal on how you think you've done, particularly on the offensive side of the ball over the last 5-6 classes. And if I could connect that to a follow-up, as you've settled into the job here at Syracuse, have you noticed a change in recruiting at the Power 5 level than when you were last at this level at Baylor 10 years ago?
Okay, first of all, that's vast. Okay, let me go back to the first part. Recruiting is such a turkey shoot. You know, you sometimes you get guys that fit the body type, the size, the speed. You bring them in, and they're just missing that something, and they don't pan out the way you want. And then sometimes you look at guys like Chris Elmore, and you're like, oh, this guy is this and that. You don't want that guy. You don't want that guy, but golly, you love the way he plays on tape, but he's not going to be able to survive. He's not big enough. And then you bring him in, and he plays 4 or 5 positions for you, and you wish he could play all 11 positions because you know you'd have a winning football team all the time. So the hardest thing about recruiting is opening a guy up and see what kind of heart he has. That's the one thing we're not allowed to do. We're not allowed to put them on an operating table and open them up and see the size of their heart. And so much of this stuff comes down to either being freaky with God-given ability, where God says, hey, I want to make a running back, I want to make a quarterback, I want to make an O-lineman or a D-lineman. Okay, I guess those guys are normally the 5-star guys that anybody can pick, and they're fantastic. But when you're dealing with the other guys, it really comes down to guys who have fantastic heart and drive and willpower. And sometimes it's hard to read that in the interviews that you have with them, but you try to do the best job that you can. And the more survivors that you have that that it thing that you can't put a price on, you can't put a measurement on. Those are the guys that end up playing. You're going to have to give me the second part of the question, but I go back to the Super Bowl every year. The coolest stat to me in the Super Bowl game is when they announce how many 5 stars are in the Super Bowl, how many 4 stars are in the Super Bowl, how many 3 stars are in the Super Bowl, and then they start naming all the guys that doesn't have any stars, and they're in the Super Bowl game, or 3 and less. Maybe it's 0 to 3 and how many are in the Super Bowl game. And the teams are flooded with guys who had ability, but they also had fantastic drive and willpower. And that's normally what makes up an NFL football team. Some freaky guys like Lawrence Taylor that you've never seen. How does he do that? And then a bunch of guys with fantastic willpower. So if you can measure that, or if there's some kind of analytics to that, let me know. I'll buy the book, I'll buy the program, and I'll keep the company afloat, because that's the key to recruiting. Hit me with the second question.
I guess the changes in how recruiting is done now as opposed to when you were at Baylor 10 years ago. And you mentioned all these maybe 3-star guys that are in the Super Bowl. I don't know if the prevalence and explosion of camps and clinics now make those 3-star guys a little bit more out in the open than they used to be.
Not sure I'm going to go there. I know you're right. You probably got a good story. I'm going to read it. I like reading what you write. I'm not sure you could go there. I think that some of it still comes down to, okay, I'll give you an example. Robert Griffin III. We know about him, right? He won a Heisman Trophy. Oklahoma turned him down. Texas turned him down. Because he said he wanted to play quarterback, and they said he couldn't play quarterback. They said he could play safety. And he said he didn't want to play safety. He said he wanted to be a quarterback, and they said you can't come to Texas and you can't come to Oklahoma as a quarterback, which is the reason why he signed with the University of Houston, because Baylor turned him down and said they didn't want him to be a quarterback either. So then he committed to Houston. Baylor fired his coach. The coach from Houston went to Baylor, and he only took 1 recruit. And the only reason he took that, I shouldn't speak for him, but I was under the impression the only reason he took that recruit was because that recruit always wanted to play at Baylor. And he knew it in recruiting him at Houston. And the recruit called him and said, "Coach, my dream school's always been Baylor. You've got to take me with you. Please take me with you." So he did. And then the guy goes to Baylor, plays quarterback, wins a Heisman Trophy, and gets drafted in the National Football League in the first round as a quarterback, even though 2 prominent schools said he wasn't good enough to play quarterback for them. Recruiting.
I guess I was asking more along in terms of how recruiting departments are structured these days as they were even maybe 10 years ago. For direction that you felt you needed to adjust to.
Yeah, I'm not sure where you're going. My biggest thing is this: you have to know the high school coach, and you got to know people who know the player. And then you have to watch tape on the player, and then you have to get as much information as you can about the person's character and what kind of person you're dealing with and what they like to do for fun. Because some things that people like to do for fun may not be what I consider fun, and I'm not sure I want those guys doing those type of things here in Syracuse, New York. So I think that ties into a little bit of what's going on. But I still don't see it as being that different. I understand there's more camps, which means there's more evaluations. I understand that there's more publicity and star power and all that kind of stuff, but it's still just, recruiting is not who you don't get, recruiting is who you do get. I mean, the United States is a big place. There's a lot of people to recruit. People go somewhere else, all that matters is who comes to Syracuse and how fast they develop so that we can have the best team that we can have at Syracuse. I can't get mad that the girl wanted to marry the other guy. I need to be more concerned about who I married.
Thanks.
Okay.
Next, we'll go to Matt Hausworth.
You mentioned obviously Boogie Basham, the defensive end for Wake Forest, and just how good he's been. I guess how do you even plan on stopping a guy like that? And again, I mean, it's another week in the ACC. Wake Forest coming off a win against a nationally ranked team. What's the outlook on the Demon D?
They're good. I mean, like I said, this guy may be the best defensive player we've played all year, and you're going to be like, oh, you're saying. No, he's better. This guy is good, and he's freaky. And like I said, he had to have an opportunity to come out early, which again just shows me once again guys making decisions on whether they want to come out early and get drafted in low rounds, or stay to get the money you deserve by getting drafted in higher rounds. Well, he stayed around, and now he's going to get an opportunity to make a lot of money. I mean, when you turn on the tape, he literally stands out. I wish you could be at the game, because when he comes off, it's one of those deals like, okay, that's a dinosaur, who's Godzilla? Okay, I mean, this does not look like, that's the king of the lizards right there. This guy is unbelievable. And, I mean, it'll be interesting looking at him, but I'm glad that this is the last time we're going to play him. He is really, really something, and you should see him run. He's that thing I was just talking about to Nate, where I said there's overachievers in the NFL, and then there's freaky people that God said, I'm going to make you a football player. And Carlos is one of them.
And then following up with Wake Forest, I mean, you know, this was a really exciting game with the Dome last year. I guess tell me, you know, what makes this matchup so good? And, you know, think back to that game last year with Trill, the interception.
You know, it just seems like every one of these games have been tight, and it's going to go down to the wire. I can't even halftime scores. I remember the one they got from us at the Dome. I think we were ahead at halftime, and then all of a sudden they just came storming back. This game is never over, and it seems like the two teams, the two coaching staffs, the players really get after each other, and no one quits until the final whistle.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next, go to Ben Shulman from WAER.
Hi, Coach. You know, next week against Wake Forest, this is a matchup of two former Bowling Green coaches, you and Dave Clawson. What did you learn in your time with the Falcons that has helped you as a coach now in Power 5?
You know, first of all, me and Dave, since that time, we've had, you know, I consider ourselves friends. We have conversations constantly on different topics. I think that in following him, I think he had some fantastic defensive personnel, and I thought he had left a good, solid base, tough team. I think he had really, really good offensive players, but I'm not sure, you know, whether they knew how good they were, how good they could be. That's not a knock. When I went in there, I'm like, hey, these guys could be really good doing this stuff. And we changed the offense and obviously to a different style. And they were such good players on their account, which is a feather off for Dave Clawson, that they were multiple and they could do two different styles. They were more control, run the ball, don't throw it. We were more throw the ball and run the ball. If you're going to put some ridiculous defenses in the box, we might as well run it. And those players run with both styles. That normally means that's a good sign of recruiting. And I thought he did a really nice job at Bowling Green. I was lucky to follow him.
Sorry, I got a quick follow-up. Yeah, and just from your time at Bowling Green, how did that help you grow as a coach?
You know, Bowling Green was a very unique place. First of all, it's the coldest place I've ever been at night in November. The being there and then you're seeing it's about, I don't know, it's 45, it's 50 degrees, and it's a nice day, and you're all excited, and now you're November, and you got that, what do you call that MAC thing they do at night? I can't remember. But it's in the middle of the week, and you've got that game on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then they wait till 7:30, 8 o'clock to start, and then the temperature drops like 25 degrees before the game, and it's the coldest doggone thing you've ever gone through. But Bowling Green was good to me. I love the city. I love the town. I appreciated all my time I spent there. And then, you know, getting that first taste of playing like Big Ten teams and being lucky enough to go 3-1 against those guys the 2 years that we were there, I think really helped me to get to the job that I'm at now. And I have nothing but high regards for that place, and I'll do whatever I can for them all the time until I get out of this business. I really do appreciate everything that happened there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have time for one last question. We'll go to Danny Emmerman from the Daily Orange.
Hey, Dino. On fourth downs this year, the team is 3 of 12 on converting. Last year, the rate was a little bit better, but still last in the ACC. I'm wondering what you would ascribe the struggles in those situations to.
I think the biggest thing is that we go for it too much on fourth down. I'm so conservative. I'm being facetious with you. No, I think, obviously you want a better percentage than what we have, but one of the things that we're going to do, if we want to go for it, we'll go for it. And I think the coolest thing is our defense knows that. They don't freak out whether we're going for it on the 19-yard line, the 41-yard line, or minus 41, or the +2, +3. They know that we go for it on fourth down. Sometimes it's a flow of the game type thing, and they need to be ready to come out and put the fire out regardless of what we decide to do on offense. We wish we had a better percentage, but that's not going to keep us from doing the things that we need to do to win the game.
I guess when you do decide to go for it, how would you describe your play calling philosophy in those situations?
Unpredictable.
Got it. Thank you, Dino.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. That concludes today's press conference. Media, as always, if you have not yet RSVP'd for tomorrow night's player interviews, please send those along to me today. Thank you.
Thank you.